Now, Turkey is facing what's being called a major test of its press freedom. 17 journalists and staff from one of the country's last remaining opposition newspapers are on trial. They've been charged with terror-related offences following last year's failed coup. But activists and protesters say the case is politically motivated. Let's put some context on this. Lisa Daftari is the editor-in-chief of the Foreign Desk and joins us now. And Lisa, good to have you on the show. Always good to get your insight. We know from anyone who has followed press freedom in Turkey, we know the government has heavily restricted the media. But I want to put it for our viewers into context just how much. To have a look at these numbers. They've shut down 150 media outlets. They've jailed an estimated 160 journalists. It ranks 155 out of 180 on Press Freedom Index. I mean, how do you see this? How worrying is this?
Right, and you just said it perfectly. It's proper to put it into context as to what Erdogan is doing and what his bottom line is. So a year ago, last week, we commemorated 1 year since this failed coup attempt in Turkey. That coup attempt was a justification for Erdogan to make a major power grab. And if you ask people inside the country, the opposition particularly, they would say that that power grab was leading up to the coup anyway. That's why there was this attempted coup attempt anyway. Basically, this was him getting on his way to becoming this de facto dictator, taking out wholesalely people like judges, teachers, journalists, anyone who is anti-government, anyone who is anti-Erdogan. And he is not a big fan of criticism. So, as we know in this country as well, the press is what shapes the public opinion. And of course, he's going to be targeting these journalists in a very symbolic move.
And of course, this newspaper, it's Cumhuriyet, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing correctly, is one of the few remaining independent newspapers in the country. I mean, how much do you think is this a factor for being on trial in the first place?
Well, they're still considered an opposition a paper. So I think that is what, you know, there's a lot, funny enough, Erdogan had an interview last month where he said, we only have 2 journalists in prison right now. The rest of them were armed robbers. So, you know, he's obviously hiding a lot of this, the other power grabs, this awful crackdown, human rights abuses, and again, the larger plan here being to take out anybody who stands in his way.
So what is Erdogan's argument here in terms of when it faces these journalists? What is he saying? They just rallied against him in terms of the coup. They led to the coup. They are.
Well, he's calling the charges terrorism. He's calling the charges terrorism, but what it truly means is that they incited this anti-government, anti-Erdogan sentiment within the country, and he wants to take out any voice that will lead to that kind of dissent.
Well, the well-known group Reporters Without Borders, who had that index we just showed, said that today press freedom is on trial. That's their words. What could you think be the implications, Lisa, for press freedom in Turkey following on from this trial?
I think that the future of Turkey with regards to human rights, with regards to those, we saw this in Iran as well, for those who risk their lives to come out and speak out. And usually you see that with that echelon of society, whether they're bloggers, photographers, many times dancers, many times journalists, writers, poets, people who are able to express themselves with their art are the first to be cracked down upon because they incite others, they inspire others. And we've already seen such a pivot over the last decade in Turkey. I think Erdogan's plan to create this dictatorship for himself has been a long time in the making. We're just seeing it come to a height because of these journalists, because of these rights groups that are now more focused on Turkey after the coup. But again, this is something that's been in the making for much longer than we've been focused on.
This is very worrying for press freedom right around the world. Lisa Daftari, thank you very much.